Hello, friends. John Quirk here. For those that don't know me, I'm the founder of a company called SoCal Wellness Retreats based out of San Diego, California. Um, I have a podcast called Fire Your Job, Find Your Passion. And it's interesting because recently I've been wanting to kind of get out of that story, move away from um, that part of me. Not that it's an invalid or bad part of me, and it's a story that I tell often, but essentially I got fired from my dream job in 2014, or what I thought was my dream job when I took it, but ended up being a really stressful and toxic environment that I was um, gifted, I would say, by the universe to move away from. And that really set me on my path of healing and finding passion and purpose in my life, with starting with yoga and then traveling the world and learning from some really amazing teachers about breath work and meditation, and even doing some plant medicine in the jungle, to eventually moving to Southern California and starting my business. And recently I've been thinking about doing some more coaching and getting into the space of doing more things like this, interacting in the way of the virtual world, but getting to share some wisdom and some things that have just made a real impact on me. So, this is actually the inaugural episode of what I'm going to be branding as my new podcast, which is the Not So Woo Woo Guru. And so, I take that title on very proudly, as somebody who has gone down a bit of a woo path here and there, but where it really didn't resonate and didn't feel like me. And I've tried to be a certain type of yoga teacher or meditation teacher, and I've emulated some real heroic people, and learned a lot from them, but also had to really find my own voice. And I think this is actually the perfect first episode to really talk a bit about that. And so I've been in this world of wellness and holistic health for the last 10 years, and it's been quite a journey. I've, like I said, experimented with a lot of different things. Yoga sort of got me through the back door of spirituality and metaphysics and sent me down the rabbit holes of quantum mechanics and just modern day philosophy, questioning why we're here, ethics, morality. And in so trying to find my path and my journey, I've experimented with a lot of different healing modalities. I've experimented with different ways of eating, moving my body. I've been a vegan, I've been a carnivore. I've always been an athlete, a hockey player, a weightlifter, but I've also obviously done lots of yoga and stretching and um, just lots of different things. I love to hike. I've surfed here and there. Now I'm a pickleball player, which I'm not great at yet, but I really love. Um, and so it really bears the question of, I think a lot of us in the world of wellness, whether we're seeking, which we all always are, or we're teaching, I think we want answers. At least I know I do. And I love science, and I think it's amazing. Um, but I think there's a tendency to want to try to find a one size fits all, or for me, I've been guilty of trying to find a silver bullet or a magic bullet to try to solve, whether it's business stuff or wellness stuff. I've always wanted to have the answer. How do we get to where we want to go? And recently I just found myself eating citrus after I was done with meals, and there was something about it that just felt satiating. I've been trying to carve off some fat and add some muscle, and it just gives me like a little sweet treat after I eat, but I also feel like it fills me up. And I remembered when I was a kid, I used to go eat either Asian food or sushi with my dad, and they would serve uh, orange slices after meals, and that's what I've been eating a lot of. And something I've always felt like Asian cultures have a little bit of a, I don't know, better, but they're really attuned, I feel like, to certain ways of doing things that just kind of make sense. Let's put it that way, in the health and wellness world. And so um, I thought to myself, well, they probably got it right, so let me try that. And then I just was like curious, and I said, well, what happens if I go online and I Google search or I chat GPT, um, benefits, or, is it good to eat citrus after a meal? And I laughed because it was like 50%, yes, it's great. It's good for your digestive enzymes and it can help, and you feel satiated and it's a great thing to do. And then there was 50% that was like, no, it can mess with your gut biome. It can cause acid reflux. It can do all these things. And so, as much as I love science, I feel like a lot of the world of wellness boils down to, it's the science of it depends. And I even took some Ayurveda once upon a time and had a guy from India tell me, "Oh, John, Ayurveda is always the science of it depends. It depends on what day of the week it is and, what your chart says and, what time of the morning you were born or, whatever." I just was like, wow, that feels really daunting. That feels like a lot. And so I'm here to tell you that after 10 years of doing a lot of exploration in the world of wellness, that I've only really come to a couple concrete truths. And I'm going to share one of them with you in this episode. And that is that, I think for as well intentioned as so many wellness practitioners and teachers are, they're fundamentally sharing a lot of anecdotal evidence. Right? Again, there's great science. Like if you move your body, we can tell you why that's good. If you know, change the way that you breathe, we can tell you why that's good. If you get out in the sunshine, we can tell you why that's good. And then even within that, there's, limitations. Like you can exercise and that's really great, but you could totally overdo it. You could stand in the sun and that's pretty universally a good thing, but too much, not so much, right? So, um, what keeps coming to mind for me and why meditation in particular has been such an invaluable tool for me is that we really, with a lot of these spiritual practices, especially meditation, breath work, prayer, however you look at kind of going inward, the inward journey, I would say. Um, so much of that is really the purpose is to become more aware of ourselves and the way that we interact in the world. In yoga, with all of its different, limbs, it's got 8 limbs, and, there's ethics and there's movement and there's breath. But really, it's fundamentally a science of self awareness and then eventually self realization and then liberation. And what's funny is all of the spiritual texts that I've read, and even all of the like self help books or seminars or things that I've done, really it's fundamentally trying to point you back at yourself. At least the ones I've found to be the best have just been really focused on trying to make you more intimately aware of you. And even just the recognition, like in something like, Buddhist traditions, where meditation is really just to become a conscientious observer. It's not to attach to any thoughts, but just to recognize that there are thoughts, and that's a natural part of the human experience, but that you don't really have to indulge them or at least overindulge them. They're sort of a advisor. I think of it as like being a CEO or being a president. You have all these, you have your thoughts, you have your the somatics, the feelings of your body, and then what your heart, your gut tells you. But those are all just advisors, and you're the commander in chief. Like you have to make the decision based on all those things. And when you start to reframe, the human experience as an opportunity to really just become better at being you, for me, a lot of the doubt or worry that I had of was I waking up early enough or was I eating the right diet or which yoga should I pick or all of these things that I think so many of us question ourselves with, they start to just fade away. You really just become so much more confident in what you're doing and the reason for why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing moment to moment, whether it's exercising and doing something quote unquote healthy, or you're relaxing on the couch and maybe eating something indulgent because we need that too, but you're doing it with like reverence. You're doing it with like trust that you're right where you're supposed to be. And they've done studies that when you eat an indulgent meal but you feel good about it, that you actually digest the food a lot better. And epigenetics teaches us that nurture actually has a lot more to do with things than nature. There's less than 10% of disease is actually inherited, and even within those disease, about 50% of them can be altered or changed based on the internal environment of the body, meaning how you think and how you feel changes how sick or not sick you get. They study this with people who are twins who have literally this exact same DNA. And so that is to say, with all of this wonderful information that is out there, how can we use all of these tools? Because they're all tools. How can we use all these tools to just become better versions, more authentic versions of ourselves? If you look at the hierarchy of human emotions, the highest emotion that you could experience is actually authenticity. Many people would guess that it's love. Love is way up there, but authenticity is, they estimate it's about 3,000% stronger than that. So that is to say, when you're moving through the world, when you're thinking and feeling the way that feels right to you, and you're interacting with people that feel authentically aligned with you, that you are going to literally emanate an electromagnetic field that they can now measure. It's up to almost 10 feet outside of your body. And that is a whole different discussion in terms of quantum mechanics and how you interact with the quantum field. But it's really interesting to see how when we really feel like we're in our lane, you know, when we have purpose, we get out of bed feeling excited about the day that's in front of us, and we're not worried or stressed about money or the relationship we're in or we're not in. And those things are a factor. But what meditation and mindfulness has taught me is that if you can really just accept and face what's unfolding in front of you with the best of your ability, and without worry or without doubt that you're not exactly where you're supposed to be, that so much of what we do ruminate on, what we do spend so much time worrying about, tends to really take care of itself. And you might hear that and go, oh, I don't know, that sounds a little bit too woo woo. And again, right, the new name of the podcast is the Not So Woo Woo Guru. Because I do think this is an invaluable thing to start to adopt in our day to day life. And anecdotally, I can tell you firsthand that so much of what I've worried about in my life never really came to manifest. It never really actually affected me nearly as much, especially as the amount of energy that I put into it. But when I have been in a flow, when I know things are just clicking, I'm actually not over stressing or overworking life. I am disciplining myself. I am challenging myself with exercise or cold plunge, or maybe going to an event that I'm a little nervous. I don't know anybody or I don't know how it's going to go. But man, when I continue to step into that, and I'm taking time, especially at the beginning and end of my day, to really go inward, so I know how I want to feel and how I want to move through the day, and then a little bit of time at the end of the day to see how I did. That my decision making process becomes way more intuitive, and the results that I get out of those decisions feel much more aligned. And I don't have the worry and I don't have the doubt, and it becomes like this beautiful inertia, beautiful momentum of those things those wins, those synchronicities start to stack up. And so I encourage you, if you have a meditation practice, but it's not really, maybe it's inconsistent, or you've tried to meditate, or you've tried to create mindfulness at the beginning and end of your day and you've struggled with it, to maybe reprioritize it. To think of it as perhaps the most important thing that you can do, because I can tell you it is for me. I can tell you unequivocally, if I don't do it, I feel it, and if I do it, I feel it, and I notice the difference in the way that the world starts to look, and the way that I just can feel how something good is about to happen, or if something challenging is on the way, that I'm just going to be able to manage it. I'm just going to be able to deal with it. And if you need resources or help, there's so many amazing teachers out there, but I do have some things on Insight Timer, or I'm happy just to, take in phone calls or meetups, or I love talking about this stuff. So if that's a struggle in your life, or if it's something you feel like maybe would help you but you don't know where to get started, um, would love to be a resource, or just a bit of a guiding light in that space. So if you're listening to this, thanks for listening, thanks for stopping by. And if you feel like, man, I have no mindfulness in your life, don't worry. I used to work 60 hours a week, and I would start with my phone first thing in the morning, and I was stressed out all the time, and alcohol during the day, or alcohol during the day, caffeine during the day, alcohol or weed at night to come down. I mean, I didn't have any baseline of any of this kind of stuff. The first time I sat to meditate, I couldn't even make it for 8 minutes. So it's been a long journey, and I know it's not easy, but it is so valuable. So that only wellness hack you're ever going to need, I truly believe, is just become more of yourself. Continue to dig away at what that looks like, what that means, what's important to you. So lots of love to you if you're out there, and hope you're feeling good.